Wow. Hey, besties. Come out wherever you are. It's time to talk about Venus and Taurus. Why do I feel like my video is a little blurry? Let me see. Oh, this is fine. I'm gonna leave it how it is. How are y'all? Say hello. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It is almost July. June flew by. There was not much to it at all. And I only did a couple of gay things, but not gay enough. This week was rough. What was rough about it? It's been busy for me. My job is particularly busy in the summer because we host a bunch of registration events to get especially high school students registered and new students registered. So we've been doing that for the last month, and next month should hopefully be less of that, but we'll see. Um, but everything went well. The event that I helped host on Tuesday, which I guess that was Tuesday, this feels like the longest week ever. That one went well, unless that was last week. And then we had another event on Friday, and I got to leave early because I hosted the other event. So that was cool. My bike is in the shop, finally getting a tune up, which I haven't done in the 4 years that I've owned it. So hopefully when I get it back, it doesn't have problems anymore. I did hit a tree on Thursday, 5 minutes into my ride, but I'm okay. Got some bruises on my legs, but other than that, I didn't hit my head or anything, so it's okay. I'm okay, but it did hurty. I kept riding after that, so no other issues, thankfully. But yeah, what else? What else? What else? I don't know if I have any other updates. I think that's it. My books are still open. If you want to get on my calendar for July and August, you should do that. I might open up a couple more spots at some point, but I'm gonna be real with y'all. It's very hard to come home from work and then do readings sometimes. I'm tired, like sleepy, but I'm trying to get back into a routine. I feel like Mars and Leo, my Mars return, I'm just always doing too much, and then I stay up later than I mean to, which means I'm sleepy throughout the day because I'm not getting enough rest. But I just have to be obedient. And if I can get back into being obedient, then I can get back into seeing more of you guys. But I've enjoyed doing readings for everyone I've been doing them for so far. Um, I really did miss it, and I really do enjoy it. It's nice to do something that feels natural and normal to me. Um, so yeah, check out my schedule, see if mine works with yours, and pull up. Okay, so what I have planned for today is mostly pulling cards. Because the only transit really that we have this week is Venus in Taurus, which started this morning. But I will also add that today, tomorrow, and then I'm sure Tuesday morning, um, we have the moon in Leo with Mars and the South Node. So I feel like this is going to be kind of messy. We have really just a couple of hours, it looks like, before the moon and Mars kiss. Yeah. So I think once that happens, um, it might get interesting. I don't know in what ways. I think Leo is the 12th house of the US Aries ingress chart. So 12th house has to do with, what does 12th house have to do with in a mundane chart? I don't know. I don't know mundane astro off the top of my head. Let me Google. 12th house. Mundane astro. It's looking like secrets, cigarettes, Um, prisons, hospitals, asylums, long-term care homes, secret enemies of the country, espionage, and secret societies. So everything hidden. People in groups that operate under the radar, like spies and espionage activities and secret societies, cults, gangs, criminal groups. It's also institutions and places where people are hidden away. So more deportation drama. I know the courts just passed this whole birthright citizenship being revoked thing, or something's going on with that. I'm not fully up to date on that, but yeah, it's looking like more ICE drama. It's looking like more citizenship drama, looking like more of that. So watch your back, watch your neck, watch your friends' necks. Don't talk to cops. Don't talk to cops. But I do think with Leo being there, not likely they're getting away with these things in secret. People are definitely talking about it and shining a light on it. So stay woke. How was the new moon for you guys? Did it play out in the ways that we kind of discussed last week? I think I had therapy that day and we had a really good discussion. Unpacked a bunch of stuff. So, but the work never ends, does it? Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about Venus and Taurus. Well, actually, yes, I do. Every time I say that, then I just like use my brain a little bit and then I remember. Um, Taurus is the ninth house of the solar return, and I of the Aries ingress. And I remember Jupiter is also in Taurus in the ninth in the Aries ingress. So with Venus moving there, probably yeah, a lot more ice drama, more court drama, more legislation things potentially being passed or rejected. Can always cross our fingers for some rejection there. The square situation with Venus and Leo, or well, with Taurus and Leo, with Taurus having the upper hand and Leo resisting, usually looks like trying to stand up for yourself, stand up for your rights, advocate for yourself, not let people play in your face. Um, but there's also the pressure to conform, having visibility weaponized against you, and due to being more visible, people trying to control the way that you express yourself or the way that you appear and the people that you represent. So probably more of that. But we will prevail somehow. Oh yes, the Mamdani election. Yeah, that was another thing. Him actually winning that election during a time where there's a lot of Islamophobia. Uh, that's pretty neat. But yeah, short-lived excitement considering the state of things. So I don't know. I feel like doing a little bit more personal analysis again. Hey Samaje. And just yeah, seeing what comes up in these cards. So let's see what the cards have to say to us about Venus and Taurus and this transit, especially as it's kicking off Mercury retrograde season. I do want to say, if I remember correctly, the shadow period for Mercury starts soon. Let me find out what degree. Oh, 21. Oh, we have a while. Oh, wait. I need to find out where it stations direct. That's why. 10 degrees Cancer. Okay, well, that's probably, if not today, then by tomorrow. So we're officially in Mercury retrograde season. So that's the other thing. Mercury in Cancer for quite some time, reminding us of whatever that Mars retrograde between Cancer and Gemini was. And again, setting us up for whatever Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is going to be later this year. So things to pay attention to, which we kind of talked about last week. So yeah, just offering the reminder on that the shadow period officially starts pretty much today. We can say today we're in retrograde territory. I don't know if y'all have had Mercury retrograde experiences already, but I have. Annoying. Okay. Hi, hearts. Period. All right. Let's get into some cards. Trying to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Not really. I haven't had a lot of thoughts recently. Not collective thoughts. I've been since doing more readings and just like my own chart stuff coming up a lot. I feel like individual readings is kind of more where I'm at intellectually. But as far as like collective stuff, politics, whatever else, I'm just not paying attention. I'm gonna be honest. I hate paying attention to Trump. I just don't like it. And so I follow a lot of political organizations and grassroots organizations who keep me updated as far as like laws and things like that. But otherwise, I'm not interested in the drama. I don't need to know what that man is saying every 5 minutes of the day. Who has time for that? Especially when all he's going to do is briefly start a war and then turn around and be like, we have a ceasefire. Me. Like, be so fucking for real. And didn't I say when I did the Aries ingress that man was going to be doing stuff to get a reaction out of folks, and that's like all he's done all year is just try to get a rise out of people and not actually do anything because he's not as big and bad as he thinks he is. Yeah. So he's not gonna rile me up. He shouldn't rile y'all up either. Computers always act up. Y'all are definitely feeling it too. Well, so yeah, I'll do a reading and then y'all be thinking about if you have any astrology related questions about literally anything. Feel free to ask me. I'm in the mood for a little bit of Q&A today. All right, to the elevated and healed ancestors. We thank you for this day and for the ability for us to come together while our rights are constantly being infringed upon. I am curious what insights you have for us, what we can expect from Venus transiting Taurus. What is the best way to navigate this transit? What should we watch out for? Can you give us a little heads up? And may this message be appropriate for any time somebody comes across it, because maybe somebody has Venus and Taurus in their own chart. What do they need to know about this placement? And how to use it for good and how to navigate all that comes with it. This is for my people, mi gente. May the message be clear and obvious to us. And may I be able to articulate it clearly. And so it is. Ashe. Oops. All right. Hello. You're late, but it's okay. I haven't really said anything. Head empty. All right, one more good shuffle here. Bloop. We have on the bottom of the deck 5 of Cups. Interesting. A little 5 of Cups action. Off to a weird start. Tell me about this 5 of Cups, Spirit. We have 2 of Swords in our situation position. We have the Magician. Cute. Love to see it in the obstacle position. And last but not least, our solution, our path forward, 5 of Swords. Weird times. Weird times. What's tea? What's tea? All right. So if you're just joining in, we are pulling cards for this Venus and Taurus transit. Trying to figure out what the fuck going on. And we pulled 5 of Cups as our context card on the bottom. 2 of Swords. The Magician. And 5 of Swords. So a couple of 5s, a couple of Swords, and the Magician in the middle, trying to balance it all out. So let's talk about 5 of Cups as our context. The context is we're focusing a little bit too much on what's going wrong. We're focusing on what we don't have, what we messed up. If we're talking Taurus specifically, maybe we're focusing a little bit too much on rejection, or we're being a little too self-judgmental, self-critical. What was I about to say? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we focused on the wrong shit. Well, I say the wrong shit. We're focused on the negative a little bit more. While we still have this back here. Look at this. Come on. Why are we so hung up on all these spilled cups? So, what do these spilled cups represent for you? And if we're talking in the theme of Venus at home in Taurus, earth signs, yeah, it's giving rejection. It's giving rejection, it's giving withholding approval. It's giving not being enough, not feeling like enough. And I think the question overall is, okay, so what do you have to offer and where do you need to go to actually focus on that? Excuse me, to focus on the positive or to realize what it is that does feel good, where you do belong, right? But for some reason, we're focused a little bit more on where we don't belong or not getting in. We're hating from outside the club a little bit, maybe. Hey, Jim. So, interesting. I'm sorry to hear it's been such a rough week for you guys. It hasn't not been a rough week for me. It's just been a weird week, you know? So, okay, let's get into this 2 of Swords. So, 2 of Swords. 2 of Swords is like hating from outside the club. Yeah, for some reason we're hating from outside the club. And there's a question around like, do we even want to get in? 2 of Swords, there's a decision or a choice maybe that needs to be made. But instead of making a decision, we are spinning out in our heads, just like trying to play out all of the potential outcomes It's kind of like decision paralysis or analysis paralysis, if you will. This kind of makes me think about planets being in Gemini right now. We just came off of this new moon stellium with the sun, um, the moon, and Jupiter, all ruled by Mercury in Cancer, who's going to station retrograde. So, yeah, there's this feeling of like not knowing which way to go forward and feeling like maybe there is one specific way or one specific answer, a right or wrong answer. And I don't know, sometimes this card makes me feel like it's not about right or wrong so much as it is just like making a choice and trusting that you can deal with whatever the outcome is. I like what Samaje is saying as well, reasoning with feelings instead of feeling them. Um, yeah, I would even say being in a state of perpetual contemplation and what are we contemplating exactly with Venus and Taurus? I feel like reading for planets when they are in domicile is sometimes tricky because they're at home, so they're in their own sign and they're not answering to anything else in the sky, so they kind of are just doing their own thing. It's hard to add like another layer onto how this planet is functioning. So what I'm really thinking about for this transit as far as things coming up is all of the aspects it's making to everything else in the sky. um on the one hand, if we still have this Jupiter and Taurus, I mean, excuse me, Jupiter and Gemini, the sun in Gemini, then Taurus is in the 12th house from that. So I think Gemini can be more fleeting, can be bouncing around, trying things out, putting things on and taking it off, not really committed to any one perspective or idea or feeling or experience or whatever it is. It's just a lot of kind of bouncing around. I would even add doing things for the plot, right? Doing things to have a story to tell. Um, and it's funny, this kind of reminds me, this might be off topic, maybe this is relevant. I don't know, I'm gonna go with it. But I was talking to a friend, my work friend, about just like past relationships and stuff, and how I always have a story to tell. Like I have a million relationship related stories or stories about girls or stories about whatever. Just I have stories for days. And she's always like, your life is just so interesting. Like you just have so many of these experiences. I'm living vicariously through you. And I was like, it's funny because now that I'm a little bit older and like reflecting on these stories, and I say this from the perspective of being a Gemini, double Gemini. So all my other Geminis can probably relate. Sometimes we just do some shit for the plot. Sometimes we're just curious and want to like hop in and have a different experience. And so I was telling her, like, a lot of these experiences, like as they were happening, they were kind of mid, like it wasn't like I felt passionate and enthusiastic and convicted about it, like I would imagine maybe Sagittarius does whenever they're doing things intentionally and because they really believe in it. I'm just like kind of having an experience and I get more joy or more excitement out of retelling the story than I did having the actual experience. Um, and I think because of that, if we go back to the whole 12th house from Gemini thing with Taurus, it's like not really identifying with the actual experience or seeing it as a part of my personhood um or my identity. It was just a thing I did. And that's not a statement about me, but it is, right? Um if I were a celebrity, this is a thought I was having yesterday. If I were a celebrity and people could go online and dig up my past and talk about it, they could spin all kinds of narratives about the person that I am that would not actually be true. It would be their version of the truth because they're using all of this information of things I've done and said in the past and taking that as a reflection of me. Meanwhile, I'm like, I feel like y'all are taking this out of context. That's not really like what happened. That's not the full story, or that's, that it wasn't that deep for me. But there's something about like being in the public eye and having other people reflect who you are back to you that then makes you have to kind of stand on business and say, well, is this who I am? Do I actually believe that? Is this true for me? Was that real for me, or what did that mean to me? So, throwing all these questions out here as a way to kind of tie in the rest of the sky. Yes, Taurus in the 12th house from Gemini, but also Taurus in a square with Leo whenever we talk about like public appearances and personas and the roles that we play when other people are watching versus when they're not watching, or when we know we're being watched versus when we think we're in private. Um, and then, of course, the mutable stuff that adds in storytelling and meaning making and the beliefs and narratives that we form about ourselves as a result of our experiences, right? And then you add Mercury in Cancer, or just Cancer placements in general, but in this case, Mercury in Cancer, you throw that into the mix, and now it's like, on the one hand, trying to control maybe your own emotions and reactions. Um, Going back to what Samaj said, reasoning with feelings instead of feeling them. There can be this part of you that wants to maybe manage other people's reactions to you and the things that you have done or said you would do, or the person you said you are versus who you are now, or whatever it is. And then there's also managing your own emotional responses, maybe when someone's trying to hold you accountable to your actions, or just your own emotional response whenever somebody is holding up a mirror to you and saying, hey, this you? So anyway, that may or may not be related to this reading, but I thought that might be relevant to the sky at large, which means it's probably in this reading somewhere. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, Two of Swords. It's giving between two in it's giving being in between two places. And maybe there's a future you and a past you that's involved with that. That's what's coming up, so I'm sticking to it for now. Okay. So in the middle, we have the Magician. I love this card. This dude's so cool. Like, he got all of his tools, and he seems very powerful, right? Like, he can kind of do anything he wants, or they want. This might be a non-binary character, depending on what the artist intended. And the Magician is like, either you have a lot of options, you have a lot of resources, you have a lot of skills and experiences. I do think the Magician can be a very Gemini card as well. Kind of jack of all trades vibes. Like, you can kind of make use. It's like it's a very resourceful card. You can make the most out of what you have. And I think because it's placed underneath the Five of Cups, maybe that line about making the most of what you have is maybe part of the point. And this is our major arcana card, which I think is interesting. All these other cards just visually have like a bluish greenish tint, and then you have this big bright yellow card in the middle. So the obstacle. Oh, Magician is a Mercury card, period. Love that. So let's say then, if we're talking about Venus and Taurus, and if we're talking about Venus and Taurus and this idea of like maybe focusing too much on rejection and disapproval with the Five of Cups, then the Magician, well, then the Two of Swords would kind of imply that like there's a choice to be made between like, are you going to be a version of yourself in order to gain that approval and acceptance, or are you going to be a version of yourself that's true to you? And then the Magician is in the middle saying like, well, I feel like the Magician is kind of like, well, do we need to choose? Like, isn't there, I think we've said this before, so this is not necessarily new, but like, isn't there something to be said for being a different version of yourself depending on the context, like depending on where you are? And if you're being rejected in one aspect of life, does that mean that you need to self-reject then in every other aspect of life? Or, is there a different version of, or rather that aspect of self that's being rejected in one area is probably useful in another area. Um, so there's like a flexibility, some identity flexibility here that I think is necessary when we're thinking about the magician. So it feels like you have to choose between maybe an authentic self and an inauthentic self, but all of it's you, right? All of it is coming from you, which then leads us to the 5 of swords. And the 5 of swords is kind of like, I know the artist calls this card like you won but you were an asshole about it. It's not quite 7 of swords, which is like getting away with something. This is like kind of mirrors the 5 of cups in a way. In a way. Where you notice in the 5 of cups he's looking at all 3 of these cups that have spilled, and in this one he's holding 3 knives and there's 2 on the ground that he's not looking at. So these are kind of doing something with each other, mirroring each other in a way. But 5 of swords feels like shame. But for whatever reason, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, like, okay, yes, shame, because fixed signs, but also like, I don't know, maybe it's both. Maybe whichever one depends on you and your situation. But on the one hand, what I was initially thinking of with shame is like, you did what you had to do to win, to get all the swords. Maybe you hurt some people in the process, but you did what you had to do, and now you're here. It was There was conflict. It was uncomfortable, and it feels icky to like reflect on and look back on. So it's kind of like, well, you got what you wanted. So if we go back to the whole belonging thing of 5 of cups, where you're like focusing on rejection too much, maybe there's some aspect of like, if this is the solution, it made more sense in my head. Hold on. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of ironic. It's like flipping in my head now of like, you wanted to be accepted so bad by these people. So you self abandoned to get that acceptance. And now what? Now look at you. Was it worth it? Right? That's kind of what it's giving on the one hand. And so then on the other hand, it's like, okay, um, maybe the rejection is coming from not people pleasing anymore, right? Maybe the rejection is because you actually decided to stand on your boundaries. Maybe the rejection is coming because you decided to be unapologetically you, and then other people get mad about it. And so you're just kind of like, well, that's how you feel. Um, but I have to do what I have to do. I got to be me at the end of the day. And maybe you won't like it. And if you don't like it, then maybe I don't need to be here. Maybe this ain't going to work out. And that's okay. So if it feels like focusing too much on the fact that it's not working out, we got to circle back to rejection being protection. Because now you got all these knives. Now you got something to actually fight with versus just kind of laying down and taking it in the name of docility. Yeah, exactly, Smaj. Five five of swords as the solution is so real because you have to disappoint people sometimes in order to feel like you're approving of yourself. And it's true. Um so my question to you guys then is like, based on your Taurus house, and the themes of that house, where are you wrestling with either being accepted and having to abandon yourself, or having to stand on business and not internalize the way other people perceive you standing on business. We always like come back to this question of, do you like you? Like, yeah, you want everybody else to like you, and of course we want to be liked, but with Mars and Leo really firm on dignity and self-respect, it's more important. Not, I won't say more important, but maybe part of this battle with the Two of Swords is being liked versus having a sense of dignity and self-respect. That's the square, right? And sometimes having dignity and self-respect means some people fall away, or you don't get into the thing that you wanted to get into. But all of that, like rejection, I was kind of thinking about this or talking about this yesterday, where someone was talking about I saw that quote that tropical astrologers like to say a lot, where Saturn doesn't deny, it delays. And I'm like, Saturn definitely denies, and rightfully so. Sometimes if you um try to like push something to work out for you or to happen, and it's not meant to happen for you, like that can be bad. That can be bad for you. It's like we always talk about trying to do more than what you're actually capable of, or overestimating yourself. Like sometimes that leads to death or injury or harm towards yourself or towards others. Like sometimes it's good to be denied, you know? That kind of came up with this 5 of Cups. I said hating from outside the club. Like sometimes, like what if you try to get into the club, they didn't let you into the club, and then later cops pull up, a whole bunch of people get arrested, but you weren't there because you got rejected. Protection, right? That's an example, but I'm just saying a lot of times, like I was really trying to think in the spirit of this Taurus shit, like and Taurus isn't only about rejection, but clearly from these cards, like rejection is important here. Um I was really trying to think, like, is there a situation where rejection wouldn't be protection? I couldn't immediately think of one, but if y'all can think of one, let me know. Um I mean, I guess having your like insurance claim denied is fucked up, right? Or but I don't know. Well, I mean, I do agree with that, cuz we should have free healthcare, right? But I guess I'm thinking in social circumstances or even work related circumstances, like not getting the job, not making friends with those people, anything that's like an aspect of yourself and identity is being rejected. I can't see a situation where rejection has to be a bad thing only. And I say that I say that while also holding the belief that there's like someone out there for everyone, or something out there for everyone. It's just a matter of like finding it, finding them, finding the job, finding whatever it is. Like you have to continue the search instead of getting hung up on not getting the thing that you think you wanted. Because again, it may be the case that you actually aren't ready for it, maybe don't have the skills for it just yet, or for whatever reason you just aren't what these people are looking for. It's just not a good fit. And why would you want to fit yourself somewhere that you don't fit? Why would you put a square peg into a round hole? Unless you want to round the edges of that square, then it stops being a square. You know? Anyway, cheesy analogies aside, I feel like it's pretty straightforward. So, if the question is, I'm thinking of the Two of Swords again. If the question is to decide, like, or really, I don't know, I was also noticing how we start with the Two of Swords, and she has two swords in her hand, and then at the end of this, the two swords are on the ground. So I think that's interesting too. The two swords being like, because even the stance that she's in is kind of self-protective as well, like guarding her heart. And especially when you're blindfolded, like you really have to lead with your intuition and with what you already know, what you already believe to be true. So, yeah. Sometimes being yourself means you don't get into the club. Sometimes being yourself means you can't be friends with those people. That organization rejects you. That job rejects you. Your family rejects you. But then when you free yourself from thinking that maybe those are the only relationships or the only people, the only jobs, whatever that exist, um, how does that also open you up, thinking of the magician again in the middle, like how does that also open you up to become more creative? Like the obstacle I think in this case is to become more expressive and creative with your self-expression and your identity. I think that's a lot of what Leo is about, if we think about Leo as the tropicals say, and I think maybe even as some of the Vedic astrologers say, like Leo as the ruler, natural ruler of the fifth house. Fifth house is about joy and pleasure and creativity and self-expression and gender and sexuality and um your inner child and all of those types of things. And so like the creativity that comes from authentic self-expression and letting that be seen in a way that opens you up to more possibilities, more opportunities, more experiences. And I think, yeah, it's not about like sometimes if we go back to the whole thing I was saying about Taurus in the 12th house from Gemini, it's like maybe sometimes you should do it for the plot and just see what you learn. Like maybe not taking it so seriously, um, not taking certain experiences so seriously so that you can just have a learning experience. Just try something new, take yourself out of your comfort zone, and see what comes up, see what comes out as a result of that exploration, you know? And maybe it doesn't end up the way that you want, but you came out of it with some more swords. So instead of just two swords, now you got five. I don't know. And what do those extra swords help you see and learn about yourself that you didn't know before? That you can now use when you move forward and try to find different places that you belong. It's bringing up again, because we talked about, or maybe we haven't talked about, but I was thinking about this being the last Taurus transit to pass through out of all the planets ever since Jupiter transited Taurus. We had Mars, we had everybody else. So when we won't have Saturn for a few more years, but for now, Venus will be the last one to pull through. And Venus is kind of really like putting a stake in the ground and saying like, yeah, this is who I am and I accept myself as I am. And because I accept myself as I am, I can find other people who also accept me for who I am. Um, and I can allow that to be context dependent. And it feels like more of that acceptance that like we've changed. I think we did a reading I think the reading wasn't the reading that we did for the Taurus new moon. I'll have to go back and look, but didn't that also have something to do with like accepting that sometimes we weren't behaving in the best light, but that doesn't mean that that's like all of our personhood. Didn't we have a reading like that sometime recently? I can't remember which reading that was, but it was like, yeah, sometimes maybe you weren't being the quote best, most ideal version of yourself, but you did what you had to do with what you knew at the time. And that doesn't have to be a full statement about who you are and your identity. Maybe it was a Leo full moon. I don't know. I feel like it was not that long ago, and I can't remember exactly the message, but I know we talked about that. So yeah. Um, feels like an important transit for that reason. At least until next year that we get more planets in Taurus. We'll have Mars in Taurus again sometime next year, so yippee. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Where's your Taurus house? How does this fit into your life? Let me see what y'all are saying in the chat. Come on, YouTube hand. I know I need to put one behind my head so my face is in more clear focus. I don't see how you can hate from outside the club. Fuck Chris Brown, no. Maybe replaying Gigi Perez's song about losing her sister hasn't been such a good idea. Or maybe it's helping you process. This upcoming week better be better. It's my birthday week. Happy early birthday! Whee! Yeah, this was a bar. Feelings are very annoying. Yeah, I was having some thoughts about how fame is a curse yet again. Because I was doing it was Ariana Grande's birthday last week. And so I got hyperfixated on her as a person, which I haven't really done in the past, and found some YouTube videos doing like deep dives on her life. And I wish I knew less. I wish I knew less. I'm just gonna listen to the music. It's hard not to project on people that you don't know. But that's what we do. So sometimes you gotta come back down to earth. Yes. Almost a Saturday Night Fever pose. Funny. Family rejection does cut so deep. I was even thinking about family rejection as being something that maybe rejection isn't protection, like to be rejected by your own caregivers. But at the same time, if they're not able to care for you, why would you want to be stuck with them? When you could potentially, ideally, hopefully end up somewhere where people actually can care for you in the way that you need. It doesn't make it hurt any less, but it's like, damn, yeah, maybe it's better that I'm not raised by these people who clearly, for whatever reason, don't have what it takes. Ghetto. Now, why did I have to have K2 in the 5th house in Capricorn? Damn. That feels heavy. Seems heavy. Please don't mention Saturn and Taurus right in front of my salad. Yeah, I don't know what that transit's going to be about. Yeah, I'm hyping the chat because it's my Venus and Mars return. Shout out to you. Jump scare, that'll be my Saturn return. That last Mars and Taurus transit was rough. It was rough. Can we just, how do I just go to sleep through the rest of that transit next time it comes around? I don't want to do that. I read somewhere the question, were you the sibling? Oh, were you the sibling chased by the one with the knife or the one doing the chasing? Yeah. Me, an only child. Defending myself from. Anyway, yeah. Well, that's that on that. Do y'all have any questions for me? Astro questions, personal questions, tarot questions. I'm not going to act like I'm an expert, but I know a little something. We also got a professional in the chat as well, so it don't have to be just me. I know a lot of you guys use cards on your own time too, so. Tee. I think for me, like something that came up, I guess this isn't random. This is kind of relevant to especially Taurus stuff. But have y'all seen people arguing on socials about whether trans men can be lesbians or not. On God, they find something new every week to bitch about. So obviously, I feel compelled to comment as a trans man, but I was like, it was so annoying. Like on Instagram and on TikTok, like some of the trans men that I follow, been following for a while, are like getting all up in arms about it. The trans men who are, I think, heterosexual instead of just kind of vaguely queer, like they were getting all pressed about like, I'm not understanding, because I feel like if you say trans men can be lesbians, that means you don't really see trans men as men. And I'm like, everybody stop. And it's like the thought didn't just stop there. The thought went into, well, I'm a trans man and I don't want to be seen as a lesbian, so don't call me that. And I don't think other trans men can be lesbians, because if you're a man, then you can't be blah blah blah. I'm like, brothers, my brothers in Christ, this is not about you. Just because we're talking about trans men doesn't automatically mean it's about you. I don't know. Maybe that's controversial. I feel like if a trans man says that he is a lesbian, cool. What that got to do with me? Good for you, brother. What are your pronouns? Like, why am I going to go online and be like, trans men can't do that because I'm the authority on trans men, because I am one? Why would I do that? I don't give a fuck. Why do you care? Does that make you feel insecure about your identity? Sounds like it to me. And it sounds like that thing again of wanting approval from people who already don't understand anything in the first place. Don't understand anything about queerness. Don't understand anything about like anything that's not cis heteronormativity. Like, why do you care what they think? They're stuck in a box of whiteness and patriarchy and misogyny and so many other things. I just don't exist in that box. That box is not for me. And the implications of being in that box are something that we fight against, not something that we're fighting to fit in. We're trying to fight the box. So to me, if somebody comes up, they got neo pronouns, they doing a whole bunch of other contradictory things with their identity, have at it. More of that, actually. Less boxes. Less neat, tidy black and white boxes. Less binaries. Less of all of that. Let's blur all of the lines. Because I feel like the more we blur all of the lines at some point, like, yeah, maybe things become meaningless. Maybe they need to. Maybe gender needs to become meaningless. What do we need it for? If we didn't exist in a system that intentionally divided us, especially when it comes to labor and pay and other capitalism things that didn't divide us based on gender, why do we need it? Let the lines blur together. It's not, and to me, it's not about like erasing people's experiences. It's about letting people have the messy experiences that don't fit into boxes and not trying to like control the way that they express themselves. Like that don't have, it just don't have nothing to do with me. It doesn't have to be a statement about me. We don't, like, we can have our similarities and still have our differences at the same time. Did you know that? So I just didn't like it. I didn't like to see that. I didn't like to see my brothers in Transformer crash out over this idea that people might be perceiving them as lesbians. People might do that. That's not your business. You know? Like, I would love, this is me being idealistic, obviously. I would love to get to a place where individuals can have their individual differences and not feel like they have to represent a whole group of people. It's like, you know, when everybody was upset about bisexual women dating men and all of the tropes around bisexuality being a phase, or compulsive, what do they call it? Compulsive heterosexuality, and like it just takes the right man to turn you into what, like blah, 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 blah. Those are other people's narratives that they're imposing on one individual's experience. Why are you doing that? Stereotypes exist. It sucks, but they do exist. We can't, it's not a whole lot you can do about other people stereotyping you, because it falls into that whole Jupiter thing of like people judging things based on things they've had experiences with, and also unconsciously, sometimes consciously seeking patterns And so it's very easy. This even goes back to the whole Five of Cups thing. It's very easy to focus on a pattern that you want to see and to create a story and say, this is what always happens. Whole time you're ignoring a whole host of other experiences that are happening over here purely because the algorithm isn't suggesting it to you, right? Purely because you just haven't seen it because of maybe where you live or whatever context that you exist in. There's a whole bunch of experiences that people are having in the world that you're just unaware of. But because this is all that you've seen, this is all that you think can exist. And you feel this like compulsion to make sure that you're not being the thing. So sometimes this is another Leo thing that I say all the time. Sometimes you just put that shoe on, lace that bitch up and wear it. Like, okay, sure. So I am that. Now what? Now what? It just like sucks the power out of it immediately because then somebody can't judge you. Can't judge you if you're just like, yeah, sometimes that's true. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't want to ramble, but let people live their own lives and stop centering yourself in other people's lives. Like, stop centering yourself in other people's lives. Stop centering yourself in other people's identities. Like, if you need to self reflect about what you being in proximity or in relationship with somebody who's doing a weird thing with their gender and identity, like, if that's making you ask questions about yourself, like, have your process, but don't try to control the other person's self expression just because it's bringing into question your personhood and your identity. Your identity is your business. Okay. So you deal with that. Leave the other person out of it. Maybe it's controversial, but that's my thoughts. Okay. Let me see what y'all said. I went on a little soapbox. I'm always trying to understand my houses with no planets in them. Yep. So this is one of those technical things that you really just have to practice and constantly be in observation of because it's not obvious until it is. Like with my own chart, I'm constantly thinking and processing my experiences based on how they look in my chart, and then just every so often, every so many years, it's like something that seemed elusive to me suddenly clicks and makes sense. I won't get into details just because it can be kind of convoluted when you don't have like a visual aid in the process, but whenever it comes to understanding an empty house in your chart, you always want to look to, yes, like Samaj said, the ruler of your empty house. So if you don't have any Libra placements, um, then to get a better understanding of your Libra house, look to your Venus placement. And when you look to your Venus placement, you want to look at however many things you need to look at. One, you want to look at the condition of your Venus. Which sign is Venus in? Does Venus like to be in that sign? Is Venus in that sign with any other planets? Right. So you start with that. Just get a really good understanding of your Venus placement, the house that it's in, the sign that it's in, and if Venus even really fucks with that sign or not. What Venus's relationship is to the sign that it's in. And then from there, you add on the other layers of, okay, so what is the relationship between the house and sign that my Venus is in and my Libra house? Like, so for me, I have Venus in Scorpio in the 6th house conjunct Jupiter. So my Venus isn't just Venus, it's also Jupiter. And my Jupiter isn't just Jupiter, it's also Venus. But both of them bitches are in Scorpio in the 6th house. So all of that information on its own, once I get a good understanding of that, then I look at, okay, what does it mean then to have Venus in the 2nd house from its home? Because if I had Libra in the 1st house, Scorpio would be in the 2nd house. So what does it mean that, my Libra house is in the 12th house from my Taurus or from my Venus? Or said the other way, what does it mean that my 5th house or that my Venus is in the 2nd house from my 5th house, right? So understanding houses and aspects is also important. If somebody else, we're talking about Venus and Taurus today, right? let's say you don't have any Taurus placements, but Venus is moving through there right now, but you have Venus in Leo, because we were talking about that square between Venus and Leo. Then you would be thinking about, okay, I have Venus in its own sign. It's kind of comfortable here. But man, when Venus is in Leo, it feels really uncomfortable to me to have my Venus be in a position where it's. Wait, I think I said that backwards. We're going with this example anyway. Fuck what I said earlier. You have Venus in Leo, but Venus is in Taurus right now. That's what I mean. And you don't have any Taurus placements. So anytime Venus is moving through Taurus, your Leo placement is like, how am I supposed to do my usual Venus and Leo things when I'm constantly being challenged by Venus and Taurus, right? Even though I don't normally have any Taurus placements, that's just not a place where I hang out in my chart. And my Venus also doesn't really like doing Taurus stuff. That's kind of a conflict. It resists doing this Taurus stuff. So, stuff like that. It can be kind of tricky depending on, the house and sign that your Venus is in and how it relates to your other Venus placements. But yeah. So there's that. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, if you have the moon in Sagittarius or if you're wanting to understand your Cancer house where Mercury's going to retrograde, then you look to where your moon placement is. Maybe you have the moon in Sagittarius. So you're trying to understand what the relationship is between your moon, your Sagittarius house, if there's any other planets there, and how that relates to your Cancer house. And if you really want to get spicy, you can also look at the ruler of whatever that other planet is. So if we're talking about having the moon in Sagittarius, then you want to look at your Jupiter placement to understand how your moon is functioning, or you want to understand the relationship between your Jupiter placement and your moon. What narratives is your Jupiter placement creating that influence the beliefs that you hold about your body or your family, your nervous system, your feelings, your expression of those feelings, or the embodiment of those feelings? How does where your Jupiter placement is influence the beliefs that you have about your body? And from there, how do the beliefs about your body, yeah, kind of goes into the whole Cancer thing. How do you use these Sagittarius themes, these beliefs, these convictions to regulate in your Cancer house or to feel like you're in control of your emotions? Right? Stuff like that. So it's a lot of, I find it easier to write it out. What someone told me to do was sticky notes. So I just have sticky notes of each planet, each sign, each element, and each modality. And I just list out characteristics of all of those things. And then whenever I'm trying to understand like a certain transit, if it feels really elusive to me, I just put out sticky notes of all of the things that are happening that I just listed so that I can have a visual representation of all of these overlapping themes and how they relate. That can be helpful too if you're a visual learner. Long answer, but complex question, right? Any thoughts on this Mercury retrograde and building Mars K2 conjunction? Oh, let me plug my laptop in. So Mercury is retrograding in the 12th house from Leo and the south node. So we've been talking about a lot of 12th house stuff today. I guess we just have a bunch of placements lined up back to back right now. I think because like Mars and Mercury in this situation. Oh, well, that is kind of interesting, actually. When did I say Mercury was going to station direct? August 11th? And then Mercury enters Leo August 30th. Okay. So I think this Mercury retrograde will have, I mean, Mercury retrogrades and planetary retrogrades have 3 phases anyway, but this one's going to have 3 phases in a particular way. First, we have first it kind of lines up like this, where Mars is in Leo, being ruled by the Sun in Gemini, and then the Sun in Gemini is ruled by Mercury in Cancer. So Mercury in Cancer ruling the Sun, Sun in Gemini ruling Mars in Leo. And then there's no Mars ruled placements in the sky right now, so it just kind of ends there. Unless we have a Mars ruled moon, if the moon is in Scorpio or if the moon is in Aries. So this first part of it until the middle of July is Mars, the Sun, and Mercury all kind of tied up. And Jupiter is also implicated because of Mercury. Then the second part will be when the Sun is in Cancer with Mercury. And I think Mars as well will be in Virgo. So then it will be wherever the moon is, being the ruler of the Sun and Mercury in Cancer. And then Mercury in Cancer will be the ruler of Mars in Virgo. So that's the second phase. And then the third phase will be the Sun yeah, wherever the moon is. It'll be the Sun in Leo, ruling Mars in Leo. No, it'll be the Sun in Leo ruling Mars in Virgo. Mars and Virgo ruled by Mercury in Cancer. Man, that's confusing. Okay, I don't know if y'all kept up with that, but I'm keeping up with it in my head. So as far as Mercury is concerned and what Mercury is responsible for, Mercury will be responsible for Jupiter and Gemini and the Sun in Gemini for this first part. Then Mercury will be responsible for Mars and Virgo. So as far as this Leo stuff goes, I think I just told y'all a bunch of information you didn't need to know. Sorry. Thinking out loud. But I think as far as this Mars stuff goes, like it's only until the end of July that Mars is even in Leo. So someone's car alarm is going off outside and it's distracting me. I think between Leo and Cancer, Cancer is in the 12th house from Leo because Leo has this way of like mind over matter. Like I can intellectually or mentally push myself through anything, or like it's being able to use your mind to kind of like I don't know, push through limits, or I don't know. There's something there just about like for Leo, a lot of things become like matters of the mind, and being able to like cognitively change things, or like because of you being the person in the seat of the perceiver, the observer, whatever, um because you see things a certain way, then that's kind of makes it real to you, right? Whereas Cancer, being about the moon and the body, it's a little bit more physical than it is idealistic or imaginative. It's like your tangible experience of reality through your body, through your feelings, through your emotions. And both of those things together sometimes they have beef. Whose car is going off? I don't think that's mine. Um, oh my gosh, it's driving me nuts. Sorry guys, I can't focus. But yeah, it's fire and water. So I think because like I don't know if you guys have noticed, but ever since Mars has been in Leo, it's been really easy for me to kind of just ignore my body a little bit more, and if I just decide in my head that I want to do something, I just ignore my body and I do it, or if I am having feelings about something and I just like want to redirect my attention to something else, I can just do that. But there's a cost to doing that over and over again, to where your body, like constantly subduing your body mentally, like intellectually bypassing, especially with all this Gemini stuff, it's very easy to just like leave your body by the wayside. And now some time passes and you're all dysregulated and you don't understand why you're grouchy all the time, or why you're snapping at people, or your weight is fluctuating, or just whatever it is. There's like your body is having a response, but because you're too busy focusing on something else over here that feels more important to you, then your body gets left behind. So I see a little bit of that whenever it comes to having Cancer and Leo transits at the same time. And then on this theme of attention, like Cancer and Leo, or yeah, Cancer and Leo, the sun and the moon, like they both have similar relationships with attention, but Cancer wants attention in the nurturing sense and Leo wants attention in the validation sense. So these needs, or this desire for attention, isn't necessarily different. However, um whenever you're talking about like the need for validation from the Leo perspective and wanting to be perceived a certain way, or wanting to be known a certain way, sometimes that's incongruent with just like the reality of your uh sometimes that's incongruent with like your, what am I trying to say? It is incongruent, but it's like your emotional, not your emotional reality, but I guess kind of that. But I don't know, your, it's not easy to perceive what's going on for you emotionally. So it's in the 12th house from Leo because it's hidden, right? It's like happening underneath the surface of your skin and your body. It's sometimes a physical response that you're having, or like we said, an emotional response. And so I think because to Leo, if other people can't perceive it, or if you can't perceive it, then it doesn't exist almost in a way. Then having your emotions and your feelings hidden in the 12th house can also make you feel like um, other people can't see other people can't see how you're feeling, or can't respond to you emotionally or whatever, because you're also deciding whether or not to project that out or not. I don't know if this is making sense. I'm kind of just trying to talk about it so it gets out of my head and then I can form a coherent thought. But yeah, basically with Mercury retrograde, then I do find that anywhere Mercury goes, Mercury is trying to talk about it. Mercury is trying to express something, convey something to somebody else, using, ideally using language. But when Mercury is in Cancer, we're we're crying. you know, we're crying, screaming, throwing up. Like we are emoting through some kind of physical process or biological process. And sometimes there can be the feeling of shame around that, depending on how your emotions are received by other people. So then Leo feels like sometimes they have to mask. And I think even Taurus sometimes feels like they have to mask as well, those those feelings and that emotional expression, but it's like a necessary part of somebody actually knowing you and seeing you. You know what I mean? Like somebody can only, and I experience this a lot as someone with like the sun in Capricorn and the Mars in Leo, is like people think I am calm, cool, and collected and very confident and very like mature and strong and like all this other stuff. And like some of that is true. I can be all of those things. I can be the adult in the room. I can be the person who doesn't need things. I can be the person who can figure it out myself. And the other side of me that is probably more hidden because I don't have any Cancer placements. And I have the moon in the 12th house from Cancer as well. Like I withhold my emotions in a lot of cases or repress my emotions in a lot of cases because I don't really want people to perceive me as somebody who's emotional because in my upbringing that caused me a lot of problems. So out in the world, it feels safer for me to protect myself by not emoting. Um but that doesn't mean that I don't have emotions. So and that doesn't mean that I don't have a body. It doesn't mean that I don't have feelings. I just am playing the tough guy role when in reality, I need a lot more than maybe what I'm giving off. So I know for the Venus retrograde we had, if that was last year or the year before, and the Mercury retrograde last year as well, that was between Leo and Cancer. This came up a lot for people, like the shame that comes around having needs or needing other people or being perceived as a person in need brings up a lot of stuff for all of us, regardless of where your sun and your moon are, because our culture is very hyper independent. And so to be perceived as someone in need is to be humiliated, right? So I say all that to say when it comes to this and then the Mars K2 conjunction, like I wonder, because I don't know, but I wonder um how much we are maybe releasing or shedding shame around having feelings because feelings are also self-protective in the name of Mars and Scorpio, right? Who's in a square with um Mars and Leo. Like sometimes we get defensive because we're defending ourselves, right? Sometimes we are self-protective because somebody's attacking us. Sometimes we are um really indignant about how we feel, and sometimes we're really indignant about something because someone is trying to play in our face or not actually hearing what we have to say. So yeah, I say all that to say I wonder how much we will be um on the one hand fighting looking like someone who needs something, but also having to reckon with the fact that we do need each other. And we do desire like acceptance and belonging somewhere, but it's just a matter of like who you're getting that from and if they actually can tolerate seeing you be a person in distress as well without villainizing you for it or projecting onto you for it. That was such a long answer to something that seems really simple. But yeah, as far as just Mercury and Leo are concerned, Mercury retrograde and Mars and K2 and Leo are concerned. Yeah, the main thing that comes up is stuff around intellectually bypassing emotions and reckoning with the drawbacks of doing that. I don't know. Maybe I just want to yap. I hate the sexuality discourse online for real. It's been bad for decades. Thank you for that question, though. If something else comes up, I'll think about it next week. Think about it before next week. I try to live by that's none of my business regarding most things. It's true. It's not my life. Misogyny just jumps out repeatedly all the time, over and over again. Just because pattern recognition helped through evolution doesn't mean it's always right. Correct. It's that whole survivorship bias thing. I have Mars and the moon in Cancer in the 12th house, and I'm not loving it right now. Yeah. Yeah. Mars is in your first house, like, listen, listen. Yeah, Mars in Virgo, July 28th. Where there's a will, there's a way. Yes. I ate my vitamins on an empty stomach Friday and threw up. Yeah, exactly. Be thinking that's the gag with Leo sometimes, I would know, is that you really feel like you can get away with something if you just decide in your head that you can get away with it, but at some point reality hits and you're like, "Oh, I guess I couldn't. Delulu is the Salulu my way out of this one. I got to like face reality a little bit and realize that there are in fact consequences to my actions." Literally been crying every day. Oh, that's good though. Get it out. I hate when people think I don't need care because I seem well put together when really I'm just projecting that as a protection. Exactly. Exactly. My Mars and Leo sibling understands. Cuz it's true and like it's also I don't know if this is true for you, but it's definitely true for me having Scorpio placements that I actually don't want everybody taking care of me cuz everybody's care is not don't feel like care to me. You know what I mean? Back to that whole rejection is protection thing, like it's like the whole rejection is protection, yes, but also like having different languages of care or love languages, even though love languages are controversial. But I do think it's true that the way that we love people and show care is not always necessarily what the other person actually needs to feel loved and cared for. That's why we got to communicate and talk about it, which is probably another aspect of Mercury retrograde now that I think about it. Not assuming, because we do still have Saturn and Pisces lurking in the corner over there, extra quiet all the time, subtly revealing our biases to us. But yeah, sometimes we assume that because it's what we would need in a moment, maybe somebody else needs that. But does that and you know what? Actually, yes, I'm gonna lean into that because that is very true. Like, have y'all ever received a gift from somebody and like you can tell that they gave you that gift because they wanted you to have it versus actually getting you something that you wanted? Or if they get you something that represents them because they want you to have something that reminds you of them versus them actually like knowing you and seeing you and getting you something that you would really like, stuff like that. So when it comes to giving and receiving care, like yeah, if somebody is trying to care for you in a way that's actually just micromanaging you or trying to control you or trying to protect you from things that maybe you protect you from threats that maybe you either don't perceive or already have dealt with, or like I don't know, it's like when your parents won't let you have experiences as a teenager because um like they're trying to protect you from a world that you're still ignorant to as a teenager, so it's not all wrong, but sometimes it's like the threats that they perceive existing either don't exist more or have changed since they were kids. And so there's like a disconnect between like y'all are trying to protect me from this thing that's like not a thing anymore. And it's really just stifling my growth and my ability to have experiences and giving me attachment issues. Like all of that's complicated. It's not to be a statement about anybody's parenting, but it's just like yeah, sometimes the way that we are trying to care for people is not necessarily the way that they need to be cared, and it's both the onus of the person who needs care to be able to express what it is that they actually need because we're not mind readers. But I do think there's something to be said for once you do know somebody and feel like you have a decent understanding of them, being able to anticipate their needs feels really fucking nice. Feels really nice when someone just knows you and how to respond to you. Like, So maybe that's part of this too. We've been talking a little bit over the last few weeks about like when it comes to caring for ourselves because we've changed over the years, like we're relearning how to care for ourselves. Maybe with Venus and Taurus during this next little while, and then Venus eventually in Gemini, probably during this retrograde too, is relearning how to care for each other because times have changed, people's health has changed. Um, Caring for people 5 years ago, before however many COVID infections they've had, is different than caring for them today. And people's boundaries have changed, you know, people's capacity for life in general and all that it requires has changed. So we're responding to ourselves and to each other differently because the circumstances have changed. I think a lot of Jupiter and Gemini is just gaining new understanding of where we're at in space and time right now as humans and as a civilization. It's like, do we know really like where we are and what's going on? Like I don't think we do, and it's just a lot of trying to get to like a shared understanding, I think sometimes. Or even just understanding all of the dozens of different ways, different experiences people are having right now because they are. So, oh my god, why would you say that? Why would you say? You're so right. Saturn retrograde is coming. Let me look. I feel like it's later than usual. Let me see. Because that does usually happen in the summer. You're not wrong. Ciao. Oh my gosh. Saturn stations retrograde on July 13th. 3 a.m. Central. That's the next significant transit that we have in my list. It says Venus in Taurus today, June 29th, and the very next one is Saturn stationary retrograde. We don't have anything happening. This is what we should have been talking about. We can talk about it next week. But wow. What do you mean? Because I was looking when I do the description for these videos, I look at the transits for the week and then the next week, so I kind of assume. And I was like, "There's not really much happening. It's just the moon bopping around." Now I'm looking and I'm like, "Oh, it's because Saturn is posted up in the sky, um, just not moving at this point. We're already in the stationary retrograde. The stationary is stationed currently. Let me look. Yes, child. Oh my god, yeah, 7 degrees. Wow. Thank you so much for saying that, Lo. I would have totally forgotten. Yeah, it's already at 7 degrees. It's gonna be at 7 degrees. It's been at 7 degrees, I should say, since it's been at 7 degrees Pisces since June 13th. Interesting. Well, that is something to think about until next week. Can you feel? Oh, y'all can feel it. Y'all already been feeling it. I wonder if I've been feeling it and just haven't realized because I'm so focused on these other transits that feel more palpable to me. But it seems like y'all have been on it. Can tell it's getting ready to go backwards. Makes so much sense regarding how I've been feeling. Yeah, we will definitely talk about that next week because Y'all are so right. Wow. And right after we just had the new moon conjunct Jupiter too. I love that we ended on this because that gives me somewhere to start next week. I think I have neighbors moving in above me because they have been hammering shit and moving shit around and just being obnoxiously loud for the last like 2 weeks. Every day I'm like, shut up. Shut the hell up. Sound like a damn rodeo up there. Okay, besties, that's all. We're at the 90-minute mark. I'm gonna go space out till I see my bestie later today. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me on this lovely Saturday. Thank you so much for watching back if you're here for the replay. Thank you for your patience with me and my mind today. I was moving a little bit slower mentally because I don't know what's going on. I'm experiencing this all brand new, just like you guys. But it's always good to see you. It's always good to talk to you. I hope to see you all in my office over the next few weeks. And yeah, I will see y'all on the internet. Y'all take care. Happy 4th of July. I hope that you get a day off. And if you don't get a day off, I hope that people don't come in and bother you wherever you work. And that you enjoy a nice long weekend. I will see y'all next week. Bye.